Actually, the last couple of times I did this, I cut the beginning off, so I'm going to give it a second. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, and variations thereof, welcome to the Selectives Lorecast, a casual Elder Scrolls podcast. When we rebrand, it's going to be really hard not to rattle that out at the beginning. My name is Rotten Deadite, and with me today are people who didn't get an order, so James, go first.
I am James, also known as Aramithius.
And I'm Andrew, also known as the White Guar.
And today we are talking about Sermon 2 of the 36 Lessons of Vivec, and hopefully a little bit of Sermon 3 as well, because, ooh, boy, is this going to be a long one.
Yes.
So, we already covered Sermon 1. If you didn't watch that yet, go watch the first one. It actually, I think, just went published, I think it just got published this morning at midnight.
I thought it was last night.
Okay, I need to like spam, but...
Sermon 1, there's a lot happens, and unfortunately a lot happens in Sermon 2 as well, so we're going to cover all of that shit.
I think we're going to accelerate as time goes on. It's going to be, we'll get kind of start off one sermon at a time until about sermon 16 or so, and then everything is going to get a lot faster.
I feel like we're gonna get tired of it.
Well, we'll see.
And so we've got this is Sermon 2 and Sermon 3 are kind of if you've read the Journey to the West that the 36 Lessons are inspired by, then this is going to sound pretty familiar, because a lot of the beginning of Journey to the West deals with Wukong, the Monkey King, going through various adventures and meeting immortals and demons and gods and all kinds of people who are just like giving him skills and so on, because the beginning of Journey to the West, it's kind of a little bit about this sort of intellectual debate that members of this of Chinese heaven are having about the nature versus nurture, and the idea of Wukong being an astonishingly powerful monkey, but still a monkey, and can he also become a sage, is the idea. A sage being like an intellectual person who has achieved immortality through study and diligence and hard work and deeds and etc.
Incalculable effort.
Incalculable effort, yeah. And that's kind of link for bingo. There we go. Oops. There it is. And so we have in the second chapter, Krezix, except those are like really long chapters.
Yes.
And like a lot happens in them, and this is kind of like one of the things, like he meets the Jade Emperor and all kinds of like big names in Chinese mythology, and they sort of like there's sort of a bet going on in heaven about whether or not he can become a sage, and so they just kind of dump shit on him, and I guess they're not that long, but they do move quick. A lot of stuff happens, and also, I think he, if I recall correctly, eats the peach of immortality in the second chapter, doesn't he?
Yes.
So it's pretty quick.
Yes, he's certainly immortal very, very early on.
Yeah.
If you've seen the movie The Forbidden Kingdom starring Jackie Chan
and
Jet Li, it wasn't a great movie. I still enjoy it though.
It was worth it to watch Jet Li and Jackie Chan fight, which was great.
That was pretty dope. But it's based on the same sort of thing, except instead of whether he can become a sage, it's he's the Monkey King. Let's just give him the essence of immortality, and now
why not
immortal, and then. And then the Jade Warlord was like, "Nah, I'm not cool with that."
Yeah, well, there are rules in heaven. That's the majority of, in fact, one way I like to think of the Jade Emperor is basically as the CEO, but not the owner. So, anyway, Sermon 2.
I can see that. Yep.
Not 5 minutes in, we're already off. So, the Netchman's wife who carried the egg of Vivec within her went looking through the land for the lands of the Indoril. Along the journey, many spirits came to her and to offer instructions, or to her son daughter, the future glorious invisible warrior poet of Vardenfell Vivec, which we're going to say that phrase a lot. So the first spirit we don't really get a lot of information about. It's just that he hugged his knowledge in tight. Well, we don't really get to find out what that knowledge is. Yes? Sorry,
I was going to say, the idea of the future glorious invisible warrior poet of Vardenfell Vivec being repeated so much, I've been looking into various bits of Old Testament scripture lately, and one of the big things about God in that is that one of the most repeated things is that I am the god who brought you out of Egypt, and it kind of an expression of a person accompanied with an expression of what they are. Is something that's quite common in the way those scriptures are put across, and I think that's what it's trying to hammer home here. It's trying to associate Vivec with those kind of attributes as a text, not as a textural device that is trying to kind of associate with Vivec with all these positive things. I don't know whether I think we'll probably unpack the various aspects of them later when they sort of come up, because they're not really necessarily that relevant until Vivec has hatched. But I just wanted to flag now that that sort of repetition is common, and it's a way of expressing a form of thing about a character in a text that they want to express, that you want to associate something with. So these are the attributes that Vivec wants you to think about here whether Z mentions it.
And and it's also Yagni just kind of touched on something in chat, which is accurate, which is that the phrase "hugged his knowledge in tight" seems to be, is it affection, or is this a euphemism for sex? And yeah, sure, both.
Yeah,
neither.
Because to have biblical knowledge of someone,
yeah, they know each other. Yeah,
it feels a bit like. It feels a bit one of the more euphemisms, if it is that sort of thing. It's the 36 lessons does not really shy away from, if something's going to be about sex, it will be obvious it's about sex. Yeah. So I'd be a little less inclined to think it's about sex here. Although just thinking about the idea of sex with an egg being redundant is another thing that Yagni's just posted in chat. But if you look at things like chickens, there's the idea. I'm hoping my idea of chicken biology isn't horribly off as I say this.
Why would you not have a perfect vision of chicken biology in your head, James? Jesus Christ.
I don't know. I strive for perfection. There are times when I just don't get that. I'm sorry.
Chicken biology is just one of those areas. Not many of them, but that's one of them.
I think that if I remember correctly, the egg is laid and then fertilized by the cockerel after the event. I think. I could be horribly wrong. But I think that there were kind of ways and where you look at particularly aquatic things that lay eggs, the eggs get laid and then fertilized afterwards. So if we're thinking about it in those sorts of terms, particularly as the Netchman's wife was flung into being underwater earlier, then we can start looking at those sorts of metaphors. So this could be an additional set of fertilization, so to speak, to make Vivec into something else. And yes, Yagni, the egg was fertilized by Set in Sermon 1, but this could just be being gifted with another set of attributes. There's more metaphysical parenthood going on here.
It's a double dose. Double dose.
Yeah. Particularly as we're talking about spirits here, although it's curious that they're not equated with Daedra specifically, because that's kind of what I would go for, but it also kind of ties in the idea that Vivec wants to be seen as legitimate in terms of what came before as well.
Ancestral spirits. More duality. Yeah, you got it, Captain. Can't get away from it. Incalculable effort is something that is mentioned a few times in the 36 lessons. And it's it was so I talk a little bit about it in the New Worldling School, but I didn't really have a great, in my opinion, I didn't really knock it out of the park. I think that there's probably a very clean way to explain it if I understood it properly, and I mean, you know the phrase, if you can't explain it, you don't understand it. This is one of those things. I don't think I did a very good job explaining it because I don't think I really understand it. It is. So, but I've had a number of thoughts about it over the years. And one of them is, one idea about incalculable effort is the idea of the It's something I wish Felix was here. It's something in Hinduism where you're talking about the incredible amount of effort that it takes for a society or a people as a whole of all mortal life to actually change fate through good deeds and the accumulation of karma and just being like sort of peak human form, I guess. I don't know.
Is this kind of connected to the kind of the cycle of virtuous societies in Hinduism? I mean, it's connected with the Hindu Kalpic cycle in the way that I understand it. That you'll have cycles of virtue in the way the world works, but I can't remember what it was called beyond kalpas. There are specific types of kalpa within Hinduism, but I don't know whether that's what you're after.
No, not really. It was basically the idea that it sort of is intended to illustrate how unavoidable fate is and so on. Is the idea that trillions and trillions and trillions of lives have to be dedicated entirely to the greater good or so on, and the reason why incalculable effort applies to this is it's the idea of, say, for example, all the incarnations of Jubal and Sul up to all the various lives that his soul has been through over and over and over again, and and all the effort and good things that he's done, and all the effort and good things of and so on that his ancestors have done, and all of these lives added up together is incalculable, and that's the incalculable effort. It's an effort of many generations over millions of lifetimes added up just to produce one possible outcome, but the idea is that outcome in at least the love letter from the Fifth Era is the Amaranth, but I don't think the Amaranth was conceptualized at this point when Kirkbride was writing the 36 lessons, so I think it was just like an idea that he had in the back of his head and he didn't really fully understand it himself.
It could well just be the more general version of that Vivec being the culmination of all things Dunmurray and so on from before that,
right?
Or primary at this point, rather.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have been Dunmurray yet.
No.
So Vivec gets soaked in the incalculable effort, which kind of makes you wonder if it is possible for somebody to be soaked in experience. And I mean, my mind goes all kind of dirty directions when I think about this. I can't really. I don't know. None of them are actually scholarly in any way, so I can't. I don't know. I got no. Maybe somebody else has got an idea, but I sure don't.
I've heard people totally unconnected to anything Elder Scrolls just say that they let an idea marinade or something like that. That sort of phraseology. So it's not a million miles away from potentially being being soaked in knowledge is potentially just being somewhere where you can absorb all that stuff.
Right.
Is that the actual verbiage, soaked in knowledge?
I think so.
Well,
I think Kravitz is right.
Became soaked in the incalculable effort.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, because I mean, soaked makes me think of. Oh, actually, that says sweat to me.
Yes.
Soaked in incalculable effort. Because I made the exact same. When I was doing slowed stuff, I referred to the slowed as zit by suggesting that Nern was sweating and was stressed out, and that's why the slowed are there, because they're zits. And so that the effort soaked in. I mean, it makes me think of memory as well. It was like this is something that although if we all know Sophos, John. He has, or they have a theory that the water of the womb is how it's racial memory, and that's how we determine that. That's why in notes on racial phylogeny, the mother tends to have the most influence on the child's appearance, because they are adapting the racial memory from the womb water of the mother. The father doesn't have that same kind of connection to the child, and so when they wrote this really great piece. It was, I think it was like a Thalmor agent or something. They were doing like some eugenics experiments, and they wanted to figure out if we took a high elf and we raised them in a Nordic environment, would they take on the appearance of a Nord more than someone who wasn't? And it was a really interesting examination in how water and memory factor into birth. And since we're talking about, soaked, and I mean that could also be simply labor. Nephew's wife became soaked in incalculable effort. How much effort does it take to push 6 pounds of limbs and elbows?
Yeah, but she's nowhere near giving birth yet, though. And I think it's also worth bearing in mind as well that we've been talking about this like these are things that Vivec is receiving, but it's the Nechaman's wife that's soaked in the incalculable effort.
Thus, whoever performs this will actually be proud and mighty among the rest. That has a lot of Madonna and Child bits too.
Well, I did want to mention the 5 corners of the world, which I was really happy about when I figured this out. About people often say that, by people I mean me, often say that Lorcan is the sort of the god of Nirn, kind of like the Earth god, kind of. And
I 100% agree with that.
And so what I did was I found a picture of the of Da Vinci's
Vesuvian Man.
Yeah, Vesuvian Man. There it is. And mapped out a pentacle on it, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. Kind of lines up a little bit."
Vitruvian Man?
I'm sorry.
Oh, Vitruvian. Sorry.
Vitruvian. Yeah, whatever. And I thought that was interesting, and then I also thought it was interesting that the Vitruvian Man has 8 limbs, which is cute. But I didn't really. But I mean, I thought that was pretty good. But it's not I don't think it's really a surprise to anybody who's watching the stream. The idea of like Lorcan having 5 corners and etc.
And mortal life having 5 corners. In the sense of, I can't remember whether. I want to say that the head was at some point considered a limb, hence 5 limbs, but I'm not sure whether that was actually a thing or whether I'm just making stuff up. All
right. And so those who performs this wholly actually be proud and mighty among the rest. Yeah, a lot of there's also a line in the Book of the Law that was suggested. Of oh, be thou proud and mighty among men. I do think that there's something biblical about it, but I can't remember what it is. Didn't you mention something, James? Who's muted? There it is.
Proud and mighty, not so much. The things that that sort of phrasing that sort of comes to mind for me is be strong and courageous rather than proud and mighty. But that's the only pairing that I can really think of. That's like that.
Let's see. Second spirit was Dickwad. Third spirit was Atatur. Now let's talk a little bit about one of our favorite characters. So Atatur is. It doesn't mention what he's a spirit of exactly, but they mostly talk about his clothing, which is interesting. That, I mean, this is what happens when your drip is so on point. People stop seeing you and they just see the fit, And so what they say is, so Atatur comes in wearing garments that are made from implications of meaning, which is, of course, ludicrous, but that's fine. And Vivec takes 3 looks at the garments, which is significant. Z says, hide means nothing, and then, there might be something there after all, and then finally, my favorite phrase, amazing, the ability to infer significance in something devoid of detail. And as I often like to say, this is literally what we do here. This is literally our whole job as lorebeards, is to infer significance in things devoid of detail. It is also very useful from the perspective of, in a general sense, postmodernism, of being able to look at something like you go to an art house and there's a painting on the wall that's got just 3 blocks of colors in it, and your goddamn art teacher turns to you and says, now what does this painting mean to you? And you're just like, oh, I'm gonna fucking fail this course.
Yeah,
I'm screwed.
Yeah. And that's the phrase implications of meaning kind of also emphasizes that because things that are implied is stuff that's not outright things that are not outright stated. So if you want to get to the meaning, you've got to infer, you've got to develop it further than what's there, which, apart from sounding like quite a skimpy garment, if you're going to think about that. Stuff that's it's only implied clothing. Is it actually clothing at all? But you've also you've then got to do what Vivec is doing. Which is look at it again and again and again and build up connections and everything else, which is also supposedly the thing that the Bible is meant for, that it's meant to be meditation literature where you'll see repeated patterns and so on, and upon rereading and rereading and rereading and rereading, more shades of meaning will jump out at you as you go through it. And so that's Vivec is both looking at the garments how they're supposed to be looked at here. Is how I understand that.
I'm looking up the importance of the symbolism of clothing specifically in the Bible.
Oh Lord, get ready.
Okay.
And from this is JesusWayForYou.com. I don't know how reliable this is. This looks like, I mean, it's somebody's blog, but
Okay.
I don't know. There's some interesting stuff here. So it says garments are used as biblical symbols in almost as many ways as there are styles of clothing. They're used as expression of socioeconomic status, spiritual well-being, and emotional state. They can protect, conceal, or display an inner reality of the wearer. So if we think about these garments and how they can display the inner reality of that wearer, what does it say about At Hatur? Which I think is what Kirkbride's trying to do here, is tell us about this character by not telling us about the character, by telling us about what he's wearing instead, because that tells us everything we need to know.
And also looking at it, Vivec is also the ability to infer significance in something devoid of detail comes after a sidelong glance. It comes after not looking at it straight. Which is also something there that it's not it's not the raw stuff that's there. It's building on the implications of meaning theme, that the full extent of the clothing is only there through implication, through through shades stuff that's half seen.
Well, that leads me to an optical illusion.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, okay.
Something like if you look at a grid or something, and there's spaces in between the squares, and your mind automatically puts little dots in the corners there, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, is that meaning? I mean, we have to think about what does an implication of meaning mean.
So At Hatur is a magic eye puzzle.
I mean that. That I think would make sense. I mean, if biblical angels can be, masses of wings with rings of eyeballs, then, why can't he be an MC Escher drawing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also, I hate to say, this isn't really hugely relevant, but the other thing I wanted to mention is that when I think about Vivec looking at Atatur and then describing the clothing that the spirit is wearing and not the spirit itself, it reminds me a lot of some of the I don't know if you guys ever read American Psycho, which I don't recommend, but it's fucking awful. I mean it's actually great, but it's oh god, it's so incredibly gruesome. And
what if he doesn't have a physical form at all?
Oh, it could be. But in American Psycho, the reason why a lot of characters are described first as the clothing they're wearing is partially to say something about Patrick Bateman and about how obsessed he is with like material and about it's all the only thing he understands because he's insane, but also because it says a lot about the people that he's describing, that maybe this is all there is to them, you know. So anyway, you know, I've had American Psycho on my brain recently, and next cast I'll show you guys why.
Excellent. I like the meme where they're sharing their business cards, but they're all Sonic the Hedgehog OCs.
Yeah. I just had one. I found the one where it's nothing but software developers comparing their keyboards, and it speaks to me on a level I can't even like. They're all the same keyboard basically, and like with just little differences in keycaps, and it's fucking fantastic. I love it. That's just the best. The tasteful thickness of it, the subtle off-white coloring. And also my website rottendeadeye.com is just one big reference to that whole meme.
Yeah. It even has a watermark.
Oh my god! It even has a watermark. And so anyway, so so Atatur his only comment is there's a proverb, and then like walks off, and it's one of the things that like I thought was really kind of like the most obvious sort of delivery of wisdom in the 36 lessons from the writer to the reader of Atatur showing up and go, hey, there's something to think about, and then,
hey,
and then fucking off.
These clothes mean something, and there's a proverb in that. In us trying to figure out what that means.
Right, exactly.
Maybe it's something along the lines of, you know, it's not the knowledge that's important, it's the seeking of knowledge that's important, or something like that.
It's not the destination, it's the trip, man.
Yeah, dude, it's the friends we made along the way. What's interesting is the next line. We jump suddenly to the fourth spirit. Where's the third spirit?
Atatur is the third spirit.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I thought Atatur was the second spirit.
So the fourth and the fifth come at the same time. They can ghost touch, which is it's probably just, you know, hey, they can turn their hands into ghosts and move ghosts and move them. That's when you touch tips and then sword fight. Okay. And so they probe inside the egg to find its core. Some say Vivec was at this point was shaped like a star with its penumbra broken off. Others that it was that it looked like a revival of vanished forms. Describing Vivec as a star is very Crowley. It's very Gnostic. Yes. But with its penumbra broken off, it makes you think about, like, I think what penumbra is supposed to be is it's supposed to be the point at the top. I think we're supposed to be thinking about a 5-pointed star, and it's the point at the top has been broken off.
Well, the penumbra of, say, the moon, for example, is the circular glow around it.
Yeah.
That's the penumbra. Mm-hmm. So what that says to me is a halo. The halo's gone.
Yeah, except, so does that mean it's a star that's not glowing? Sure, maybe.
Well, maybe it has all the features of a star except for the divinity. Mm-hmm. Being born of an, it's connected to the material world. And I mean, I like to take a little Chinese stuff when thinking about Vivec, you know, Lord of the Middle Air and you know, the Middle Kingdom, all of that. And so with the penumbra broken off, I mean that sounds like a joining of heaven and the earth.
Yeah.
And as Captain has said, it's Vivec without their divinity.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That is true, actually, and the more I think about it, the more I think that's a better explanation. So I might change this comment on the New Whirling School, because I think that's way better. A revival of vanished forms is like, you know, lost concepts and etc.
And it sounds to me like, you know, the like of which we haven't seen in ages.
Yeah.
You know, this is a big deal. And so what this is trying to say. Yeah.
Well, I think what it's doing is it's referring to the previous divinity of the Elnifang.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
I see that. I was going with the idea of, well, Vivec is one of the very few who's achieved anything like the Psijic Endeavor. So if we're thinking of the Sigil Endeavor as something that Veloth first preached, the Ashlanders have strayed away from that. You don't get any intimations that there's any kind of cultural relevance of the Endeavor itself, apart from some of the bits that we hear from that are just from Vivec in Vec's teachings. So Z could be talking absolute rubbish and trying to link himself with the past. I mean, heaven forbid that Vivec's never lied before.
No. Totally.
Yeah, but if that's the case, then it just could be that another attempt to kind of harken back to what's gone before, sort of thing.
Yeah, and so the two cousins are related concepts. One of them says, from the side of my family, I bring you to a series of calamities that will bring about the end of the universe. And the other one says, and from my side, I bring you all the primordial marriages that must happen within them, each one. And this is very sort of left and right hand Christian kind of thing happening here. This is the marriage of opposites. It's an enantiomorph, etc.
Okay. Well, it sounds prophetic.
Yeah.
A series of calamities that will bring about the end of the universe. That sounds to me like Alduin's Wall. We got a series of calamities, and then the end of the universe would therefore be landfall.
Right.
There's the idea that I like is that after Numidium or after Alduin is defeated in Skyrim, the Kalpa is left to run forever, which we know from the 7 Fights of the Aldudaga. Alduin does not want that to happen.
Yep.
Because perhaps Alduin isn't as evil as we think he is.
Or just really selfish. Yeah.
I mean, maybe. But as soon as Alduin is defeated and the Kelp is left to go on, well, now Numidium can return and landfall can happen, which can destroy the universe. That's what that says to me. And as always, that's never authoritative. It's just kind of what I see in it. What's interesting is that the first cousin and the second cousin, where did these characters come from? And are they two of the spirits?
Yeah.
Oh, they are spirits. The fourth and fifth were cousins.
Yeah.
So they were cousins. Okay. I
kind of read it as the primordial marriages that must happen within them. Each one is the causality that brings about each of those calamities, which would also be the root for things like Vivec knowing about landfall. If we're going to go there, I don't know whether.
I want to address what Yagni's asking real quick. But doesn't landfall only destroy Nirn? Numidium causes less destruction than Alduin, right?
Yes.
That was something that Dice Irae was supposed to deal with, which never got released, is not finished, and it will never see the light of day.
It's really fucking grim. I've read parts of it, and then other bits have been explained to me, and it's just
the idea was that Numidium was at least able to kill the good Daedra. So Azura, Mephala, and Boethia are dead. They're gone. And so if Numidium can do that, what else can he destroy? And so, if you're removing fundamental aspects of the functioning of the universe, which the princes as Etata are, then I mean that can only lead to one result. That's my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Although part of me always wants to kind of look at the fourth wall and say, I bring you a series of calamities that will bring about the end of the universe. They're basically getting all of the Elder Scrolls games before the rest of us.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Darn it.
So Vivec laughs and says, "I've been given too much to bear so young. I must have been born before."
An old soul.
Yeah, exactly, an old soul, and then the responsibility of everything. And I mentioned this in the New Whirling School that it's the idea. There is this idea I have in my head that maybe Vivec doesn't fully understand the prophecy that he's just received.
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, the more I think that makes sense, especially when you get to like Sermon 18 and some other like later sermons where it becomes very clear that Vivec's not getting what he wants. And I think this is one of the things that, I mean, it sort of feels like Vivec's just kind of saying, wow, this is won't that suck to be me? And he's saying that because he's just trying to roll it off, trying to pretend like it doesn't bother her because he doesn't fully understand it. So then the sixth spirit shows up, the Black Hands Mephalas, and this is relevant because up until this point we could have theoretically said that these were all ancestor spirits, but now that Mephala shows up, spirits becomes possibly a term that can also include Daedra. So, yeah. And so Mephala shows up, and let's see if I have anything really good in here. It's Terror in Theory. We'll deal with that later.
But yeah, Vivec gets extracted from the Nechaman's wife. But there's part of me that almost wants to kind of join this to some Christian demonology, almost just from the phrase. It took the egg from her belly with 6 cutting strokes. I can't remember the name of the particular demon, but there was supposedly a demon that taught mankind every bad stroke, which covers everything from murdering people with knives to abortion. In a particular kind of telling, anything that ends life. So I'm just wondering whether we can kind of tie that in there. It's something that's literally just occurred to me, and I really should look some stuff up about it before making any larger pronouncements. But that phrasing feels similar, and it's similar to what's going on here, particularly if we are making that link to abortion, because there is manipulation of a fetus going on,
right,
in some way, shape, or form,
and hard to ignore. Yeah. And also it's Mephala, so there's all kinds of tricksy happening here.
What one's the Sermon of Numbers? Is that 35?
No.
See section 7 layers. Okay, Captain.
20,
That's
29.
interesting.
I want to look at the importance of 6.
In general, fucking hell, man. That's.
Yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Within 36 lessons, terminology is probably a simpler start.
Yeah, because Mephala, Black Hands Mephala, is the 6th spirit. 6 cutting strokes. I mean, 6 is being repeated here, and in Sermon 29, 6 is the walking ways. So perhaps it was Mephala's extraction of the egg image of Vivec that allowed Vivec to walk those ways by freeing him from the womb, or freeing her from the womb. Z can now walk those paths or something like that. I don't know. That's I'm trying to juggle that a little bit.
6 is within the 36 lessons. 6 is it is the number of the egg, isn't it? The egg, or 3 times, or twice
6
the
times
wise?
the wise is what you're thinking. 18.
Oh, I'm sorry. 18. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay. So
and it looks like the egg image, so Vivec is aware of what happened at the beginning of time.
Yeah.
So probably convention is what this is talking about. Could see into what had been before in ancient times when the earth still cooled and was not blinded. So I think Vivec is like, oh, okay, I know you, Mephala. I know what your deal is, because I know what happened at convention. Well, I mean, Mephala wasn't really involved in convention a whole lot.
well, Mephala was there though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless it's no, because it wouldn't be talking about the whole Trinamac thing.
No, it's Boethiah.
I don't think. Yeah. Well, because Mephala was there and stabbed Trinamac.
I thought Boethiah stabbed Trinamac.
Both of them were there. Boethiah actually ate Trinamac. Mephala stabbed him in the back or stabbed him in the side or something. That was all of Mephala's involvement.
All right.
And I think that's only mentioned in one place. But there is a telling where Mephala is there and involved. But I don't think that's what this is talking about.
So
was not fooled.
Vivec joins with the Daedroth and took its former secrets, leaving a few behind to keep the world from disentangling. This is a reference to Vivec being the or Mephala being the anticipation of Vivec. And well, to keep the world from disentangling is interesting because it seems to imply that the Daedra have a tighter connection to the structure of Mundus than we're aware of. There is the idea of the structure of the universe of Mundus being not just 8 limbs but also 16 voids. So the Daedra are important because they maintain the space between the limbs. Mm-hmm. So that does make some sense.
I mean, one time I had considered the idea of Mephala being like the spider in the center of the web, and the web is the wheel cosmology.
Right.
So Mephala would be a lot more important, which means therefore Vivec would be more important. When Vivec says, "I am the thief of this world," he's talking about usurping Mephala's place in that web, where now Vivec is at the center of everything. Pulling all the strings.
Although it's also given here as a gift. It's the egg joins with the Daedroth and took its former secrets. So
yeah,
and that to me is Vivec taking on the role of the anticipation of Mephala.
Yes.
Quite apart from anything else.
Absolutely, yeah. But the egg bringer blew on magic breath till the hole closed up. Which is why pull Vivec out just to put Vivec back in? Unless Mephala was trying to fool Vivec. Because remember, Vivec was not blinded.
Unless there are some things that just can't be done inside.
Perhaps.
Frankly. Just access.
And I think that next quote from
because
Mephala,
I don't know, I want to kind of just thinking about why pull it out. Because Trinomac reached into Locarn with more than hands, and there's no suggestion that black hands are black hands being ghost hands. I don't know whether we wanted to think about Jubal as kind of the ultimate thing to do with black hands Mephala,
the digital and all that.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Mephala being so connected with hands links it to the physicality, which means you need to extract the thing to physically manipulate it.
I do have that thing.
That's just my thought. And Chris looks deep in thought.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a quote by Borgia.
Oh,
I can't hear you guys because my cord's short.
Okay, what kind of quote?
I can't exactly remember what it is anymore, and it kind of bothers me that I can't remember it, but it was basically something that God has 2 keys, one like on his left is infinite. Oh, here it is.
Okay, shoot.
Hold on. 2 key. Hello.
Okay.
Come on, you son of a bitch.
There's also the other.
There it is. Glory to him who does not die and who holds within his hand the 2 keys of infinite pardon and infinite punishment. That's what it was.
Okay.
God hath 3 keys.
But in here, yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that I think this quote is a reference to that.
Yeah.
That's from Borgia's The Black Mirror.
So that's birth and death, basically.
I think this is describing Almsavy. Birth describing Almalexia, machines describing Silthasil, and the words between describing Vivec.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is another restatement.
I mean the weakest part of that, I think, is birth being associated with Almalexia because
she never has any children.
Yeah, she's not. I think they call her the healing mother.
Mm-hmm.
But she is Mother Morrowind.
Yeah, she's more. Well, isn't that Baron Zaya though? Isn't Baron Zaya Mother Morrowind?
Whose publisher are you talking to?
Yeah.
Who's press agent?
I've heard both of them referred to that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, because Almalexia, I don't think ever had any children with Nerevar.
Nope.
And she's never actually a mother. She's only ever a mother figure.
Mm-hmm.
So the birth is I don't know, it's a little weak there for Almalexia. The rest of it makes sense, but I'm not sure what to do with birth.
Well, it's pretty. You can assume it's Almalexia because machines is pretty clearly Silthasil, and the words between has got to be Vivec. So
yes. And within this sermon, the wise may find 1/2 of these keys. We've got Vivec,
Exactly.
We've got half of one of the other tribunes.
Probably birth, because I mean,
yeah, it was a half birth. Yes.
Could we say Vivec was half birth? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe what does that have to do with Almalexia though? The withdrawal and the putting back. I mean, if we had Boethia involved in this sermon, like we could look at that, and that would give us some tips. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm wondering if that's a synesthesia thing there.
Maybe, could be.
I don't know. But they are, however, looking for the lands of the Indoril, which is Almalexia's domain.
Yeah.
As well, so that's another connection.
Yeah, because she is like a matriarch of House Indoril, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're only 45 minutes in. We just did sermon 2, so fantastic. Let's do 3.
Yeah, cool.
No. The ending of the words is Alm Civi. We didn't open the can of worms that was Tetragrammaton last time.
Oh Jesus, that's right. Are you prepared to talk about that? Because I sure ain't.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can.
That's good.
Cool. The Tetragrammaton is a term. I can explain it fairly simply, and there's probably more depth to it that I'm glossing over. But the Tetragrammaton is the term for the names of God in the Hebrew Bible. It's the term that you'll find in modern Bibles whenever you see the words "the Lord" capitalized in the Old Testament. They're using the Hebrew letters that are represented by the modern vocalization of Yahweh, which is in Roman characters YH or YHWH.
Yep.
Yes. And so that's the and that's always capitalized generally when it's talked about here, which is what Alm Civi is imitating here. Is that stylistic bit, but tetra is also 3. It's an allusion to there's another term that variously the Spirit of God will get called 7-fold and 3-fold depending on which text you're looking at. So, and this is within Old Testament. This is even without getting into the Trinity. So there's the idea of kind of a multifaceted word of God, but you've also got the wording of Yahweh doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that. I just wanted to flag that as a possibility. The full explanation of the name Yahweh is it gets translated as it will vary depending on your translation, but when it gets fully unpacked, it is I am that which I am, or just I am for short. It's a statement of existence and in its full form, self-contained existence. So you've got here the statement of Alm C and V being all one thing. It's a statement of their existence as a whole, and with those connotations potentially of not necessarily self-creation here, because it's pretty plain that Almalexia and Sothasil are quite involved with the creation of Vivec, but it's that kind of tier of creation and expression of both of the whole and everything that entails.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I think it is kind of possible to think of Alm Civi as a self-created god, but it's not as firm as it is in Christianity.
They did it themselves.
Well, yeah,
but they do not contain the causality within themselves.
Right.
There's a difference to be made there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whereas the Christian God like literally created itself like from scratch. It's not like bits came together and formed it. It was it was just it was there and then it wasn't, or it wasn't and then was there. So, So anyway, so that's the and then of course I think we covered it already when we talked about Sermon 1, but the ending of the words is Alm Civi is a reference to the ending of the words is Abrahadabra from Crowley, and
yep.
I do not feel qualified. I mentioned this in last cast. I don't feel qualified to talk about Abracadabra. It's very, very complicated. It's related to Abracadabra, which is supposed to be a magical spell. But Crowley felt that it had been mistranslated, and that Abracadabra is better. Crowley had a lot of ideas. So, Sermon 3. Being blind, the Netchman's wife wandered into a cave on her ways to the domains of House Induril. It so happened that this cave was a Dwemer stronghold, and guess what we get to talk about today?
Yay.
The Dwemer spied the egg and captured the Netchman's wife. They bound her head and foot and brought her deep within the earth. So the Dwemer dwelled underground. I think Dwemer, the word, is supposed to be deep elves, I think, is how it's supposed to translate. And,
deep folk.
And, it's originally the one who blows, Yahweh meaning the wind or the bellows. All this stuff about existence tacked on later to make Yahweh seem more mystical. Well, if you're going to only worship one god, you're going to make it the coolest god you can think of. I mean, that's just common sense.
My dad can beat up your dad.
Literally, a lot of religious wars started on less than that. Yeah.
I would be curious to look into that and the roots thereof, because things like breath is ruach rather than anything that I can really link to Yahweh. But I will definitely dig into that. Thank you, Owen. I will get into that, and the next time it comes up in the sermons, because it's coming up again, we can talk over that. And
it's coming up in Sermon 27, which is what I'm getting ready to start working on now. I've almost got 26 rendered, and so yeah, that could go up by today if we're lucky. What just happened? Oh, got a follower! Yay!
Yay!
So, trying to distance themselves from his Canaanite origins. Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
So the Dwemer live dominantly underground, and the Dwemeri strongholds are things you get to muck around a lot in Morrowind and in Skyrim, and it's great because they're fucking awesome. And since Elder Scrolls 6 is going to take place in Hammerfell, which was originally founded by the Dwemer, we're going to get a whole bunch of them there too, and I'm looking forward to that shit because I'm about it. I love that shit. But the Dwemer as depicted in the 36 lessons are a little different from the way that they're depicted in everything else. Not hugely different, encouragingly, but pretty different.
They're depicted as kind of bizarre and unknowable, but they're also depicted as being quite dumb.
Well, dumb in a very critical way from Vivec's perspective, but more sort of the impression that I got from the Dwemer is that they're just culturally incapable of understanding certain key concepts that the Velothi are better at. You know, the idea of love, capital L love, and so on. And they're very sort of, like, as we see in this, they use solid sounds and great heat and cornered spheres and things like that. These are contradictory concepts, and they say things like, "Let us go and misinterpret this," and that's kind of like the impression that I have of the Dwemer from the 36 lessons, is that they're described this way in a way to make them incomprehensible and alien and dangerous.
The first thing they do is make a robot of the Netchman's wife.
Which is like big sort of Blade Runner vibes from that shit. You know.
Although I get that. I mean, we'll get to it a bit more and can kind of unpack it a bit more in later sermons. But for this one, the most interesting line for that for me is that go and make a simulacrum of her and place it back on the surface, for she has something akin to what we have, which I kind of take to be a kind of half nod towards Vivec's actual origins, in the sense of the Dwemer have the Numidium, which is a constructed god, and you have
in
Vivec,
Sermon 36,
which is a constructed god.
Well, it is a constructed god, but also in Sermon 36, they actually say that Numidium was patterned after Vivec.
Or
Vivec suggests that this was the case, obviously.
Although that almost puts the lie to it, that it talks about that she has something akin to what we have, is almost like we've already got this thing. We've already got the numidium, or at least the pattern that the numidium is being built from, because the numidium isn't ready until the end.
What if it's not? What if it's not numidium that they're talking about? But hello,
Felix.
Instead.
We have a Felix.
Hey, there
hello.
he is.
Yes, hi. They get to tick this off the box today.
Late entry.
Yeah.
Because what if they're talking about the heart of Lorcan instead? That divinity that the heart represents. They have that, and there is some measure of divinity here with Vivec, and it seems like so when they try to get Vivec out. It almost looks like they're trying to use Vivec as another power source, like they're trying to do with the heart. If we're following this idea here, and it looked, the Netroman's wife felt great knives, tried to cut her open. When the knives did not work, the drummer used solid sounds. When those did not work, a great heat was brought to bear. None of it was any use, and the egg of Vivec remained safe within her. I wonder if that was Mephala doing. If Mephala, by putting Vivec back in the womb and sealing it back up, because what was it that she did? She did something specific to seal it back up. Let me go back and look.
Reverse C-section.
Yeah. Let's see. Then the Black Hands Mephala put the egg back into the Netroman's wife and blew on her with magic breath until the hole closed up. So that magic breath there. I'm wondering if that's something protective. Daedroth did not give her back her eyes.
That, not gonna lie, like magic breath, that's usually something associated with Kine or Kinner.
Yeah, it does. Well,
yeah. We also have a bingo.
Hey, I got someone bingo.
We got 2 bingos.
Yep. And it's worth. It's also, by the way, it's worth mentioning that because the Netroman's wife was blind, that's why she wandered into this cave into the first place. So we know who to blame.
Which that also makes me think about Falmer.
Also, another thing we need to mention is, James, what the hell happened to the beard? Come on, we all have facial hair to maintain. You can trim it short. I get it. It's summer, but it's gotta be
background noise. Was that me? Was I the loud background noise?
Oh, was it maybe?
Here. Oh, no, I shouldn't do that.
But no. But yeah, I came out of COVID. I came out of having COVID. I fancied a bit of a change. And so I just got rid of the whole lot. And it's also coming up to the hot season, so it is going to have to be kept short.
Hot season in Britannia.
It can get hot, dude. It is 83 degrees outside in Massachusetts right now. 83.
It's how warm?
Huh?
How warm?
83 degrees.
Oh, that's about what it is here.
Yeah.
What
is that shit about?
You're also a bit more sensitive because we don't have air conditioning in every single building.
Right.
It's very rare to have air conditioning in buildings that are private dwellings that aren't owned by a company of some sort.
It's like 60 degrees Fahrenheit here, about 14 Celsius.
Yeah.
Wow, we're hotter than the West Coast. That's a first.
It's really cloudy and kind of rainy today.
Anyway,
98, fuck that shit.
So
Vivec.
Sermon 3, magic breath, probably some kind of protective spell. If not associated with Kine, then I'm wondering if maybe, given Mephala's thing is like the web spinner, sort of like basically suburban rumor mill mom.
Maybe.
Then maybe it's some kind of like protective spell, and that it prevents further whispers of plots against the egg.
Oh, maybe. Like I like that. I'm trying to think of connections between Kinnereth or Kine and Mephala, and I know there is a connection between Namira and Kinnereth, and there's also a connection between Namira and Mephala because they're both. Or no, never mind. No, I'm thinking of Nocturnal. Ignore me.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
We will ignore you.
Yep. Excellent.
I was going somewhere and then I lost the plot. So.
You got lost in the seas of oblivion.
It happens.
Yeah.
You will not achieve permanence. You have not reached the far shores.
Oh, is that a Dwemer over there?
So
just Yagr and Bagard floating through oblivion, like hello.
So Vivec tries to console her mother, who has probably realized at this point that she's fucking boned. She's been wandering through through Morrowind blind. Anybody who puts on the boots of blinding speed knows how much fun that is.
It's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, make a spell resist magic 100% for 1 second.
You navigate via the map, and then the instant you stop, you see yourself stop moving on the map. You take them off and kill all the cliff racers behind you.
Right. Yeah.
Rinse and repeat, and then put them on again. Rinse and repeat. Yeah. Move round the obstacle and then carry on.
Taint difficult.
But
anyway. So Vivec does does what I guess we call Vivec's prayer, which is the way I think about it, which is complicated. There's a couple of there's a couple of things that are discussed in this prayer that are interesting. Is it which one is it? Sermon, is it 35? I don't.
What are you thinking of? My mind immediately
the Sermon
went
of the
to
Wheel.
So why is it?
It's the sword. The wheel is 21.
Okay.
And one of the things that Vivec mentions in Sermon 21 is the idea of like if you look at the Majesty sideways and all you see is the tower, look at its center and you see the begotten whole, the second serpent, womb ready for the right reaching. The heart of the second serpent holds a secret triangular gate. Look at the secret triangular gate sideways and you see the secret tower. What we're talking about here is the same thing in Sermon 3, is the secret door at the altar of Padme in the House of Boethia. So the idea here is that Boethia, the sort of the protector of. I wrote a post about this, about Boethia as the protector of the main plot of Morrowind, metaphysically. The idea of Boethia guarding Chim and such, and.
Yeah, is that part of the link to the twin gates of tradition, or words to that effect? I can't remember what the precise wording is. It's not gates.
I forget else. Yeah, twin gates of tradition. I don't remember. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the twin something of tradition. I'm sure that is Azura and Boethia. But anyway, tangent.
So, and basically what Vivec is.
Hey, Rob got a bingo.
Hey, good job, Rob.
Hey.
Basically, what Vivec is trying to talk about is the idea of sort of ushering the soul of her mother into, the possession of Boethia. The altar of Padme makes a lot of sense. The idea that Boethia would have an altar to Padme is just. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
So this whole thing.
Notice me, Daddy.
Yeah.
It looks like this kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a poem, but it seems like it's the culmination of the Netchman's wife's purpose. We have reached the end of her necessity. You are no longer necessary, but you have been of great service. So you're going to be safe in at the altar of Padme in the House of Boethia.
You're going home. You're going to die.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a like a I can't think of a good way to make an analogy here. But let's see, they'll probably make Netchman's wife smile and begin such a deep sleep that when Mary Atronach returned with corn spheres to cut up her apart, she did not awake and died peacefully. So where is Vivec at this point? Did Vivec leave?
Still inside.
Yeah,
still inside.
In
okay.
Yep.
Guarded by the dead. I'm trying to think of some significance of the child in the dead mother. I'm trying to think of what that
I'm not sure that necessarily links to it's one thing. It turns up in Sermon 34 as well when Vivec is essentially giving a mercy killing to the eighth monster, and he says this prayer over the monster to because he still has a touch of AM's mercy.
To make the passing easier.
My interpretation there is that it's like a form of like cutting her apart in Vivek's there. The emergence that to me is like shedding of the skin. It's beginning anew. That's kind of the like it's metamorphosis. That's how I always interpreted that, as opposed to trying to be some kind of specific thing or a reference to something else. It's more of just the metaphor of now I am changed to become the god who has inherited this earth that I am thus born into, being prepared by heavenly angels and choruses and blah 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 blah. Like that's kind of the vibe I got. So why she was cut apart is like, oh well, that's because he's gotta emerge from the skin, as it were, but we gotta make it all creepy and gory because it's Morrowind and Dunmer bug people like that shit. So
we're not doing our job right unless there's a little Cronenberg happening.
Plus, you've got
everyone remember Bone Walkers.
Everybody go see Crimes of the Future. It's coming out soon.
Plus, you've got the idea of Vivec's mother kind of has to be removed from the equation if you go with the sort of mystical ideas of self-creation, which 36 Lessons is very, very into. I mean, self-birth, which is coming later, is also a part of that. I mean, Vivec kind of goes the extra mile entirely. So it's kind of part of the process. Removing her mother from the equation altogether is just part of what is necessary. So it's Vivec's way of kind of saying, yes, this is all right, and it's also telling that that Z links it to the fire, which I tend to, because of all the talk of vessels and stuff, I kind of link it to the secret fire in alchemy, which is one of the driving agents of change for the alchemical process. It represents things like knowledge and the way that fire acts on elements, including while more mundane fire acts to transform elements, the secret fire acts to transform the alchemist. So in being consumed by the fire, Vivec is saying, yeah, this is fine. This is all part of the process. It's all part of the plan.
All part of the plan.
Well, I like what
reference.
Krazix pointed out in chat, that Dionysus was also born by C-section from his dead mother. And so I'm looking it up here. So
Vivec is very Dionysian. He's kind of a kind of chaos party god. Basically, if you think
chaos party god.
I just think of it sort of as Pan, but far worse behaved.
Because it's essentially Dionysus is fathered by Zeus. Hera tricks Dionysus' mother, named what's her name, Semele, something like that. Tricks her into asking Zeus to present his full godly form, which kills her.
Well, in a thing that's parabled later with like biblical references, like, oh God, you can't even perceive him. She was blinded first and then burst into flames at the awe-inspiring power of Zeus. It's the same reason why it's like, oh yeah, no one's ever seen God, and that's why the voice you hear in your head is actually like the angel messenger of God. Because if you were to hear God's voice, your head would explode, kind of thing.
So that's like the whole purpose of Metatron, isn't it?
Yes.
Zeus saved their unborn child Dionysus from the womb and kept him in his thigh until the baby was ready to be born. Which, I mean, that I don't know if that rings similar to what Mephala did by putting the baby back in the womb instead of the thigh.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to suss things out.
Well, just to sort of sidetrack a bit, one of the things that, and I'm by no means an expert on this stuff, take it with like heaping loads of salt. There's often symbology associated with different body parts in Greece. Zeus has had gods come out of like all different ends. Most famously, I think, was like Athena erupting from his head, which is why she's the goddess of wisdom on top of like warfare and stuff, like, and all these thoughts and stuff. So because you came from Zeus's head, oh well, he's the father of gods. Like your head is where you think, you're smarter, your plan. So that's why she came out from there. And so not Hephaestus, Dionysus being stitched up in the thigh. Not sure entirely what that represents, but I'm sure to the ancient Greeks it meant something to do with like stamina or manliness in some case, like something to do with why it was that body part. It's by no means a coincidence, or just like, and he put him in his can't think of butter, his forearm, like or his armpit, right? Like it's something else to show that perhaps it's unnatural, or it's merciful, or it's in association with some kind of cultural ideal. That's usually how this stuff works. On an unrelated note, there's an Inuit creation myth of the birth of good and evil. Good was born the normal way, but because he couldn't stand to be born second, he immediately started scrambling at his mother's side, so like from the side of her belly, or sometimes it's also from her armpit or something. But yeah. That's like the creation myth of like, oh, so like it was evil, unnatural, like that's not how things work, and that's why evil's bad, right? So that's kind of the cultural shorthand for stuff like that.
Boy. So Vivec gets removed from her womb and is placed within a magical glass for further study. So he's just sitting in like a little bhakti tank. And then
little test tube.
Little scientific like vial.
Little test tube.
Little test tube, Vivec. Yeah.
To confound his captors, he channeled his essence into love and emotion that the Dwemer know nothing about. And so first off, let's talk about why the Dwemer don't understand love.
Hey.
First off, fuck you, they probably did.
They're all dead inside introverts like me, haha.
Yeah, well, but I mean, they probably did. This is just the 36 lessons being political and saying, well, the Dwemer, they don't know what love is.
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt
me. No more.
All right. And I got dizzy. And so. All right. And so they political motivations aside, if the Dwemer did not actually have a comprehension of love, then it sort of starts kind of throwing them into kind of like Vulcan, sort of Star Trek-y Vulcan kind of territory of like whereas the Vulcans don't have a comprehension of what we consider love. They used to, they just got rid of it because it's an emotion and they are supposed to be like cold and calculating and emotionless. The Dwemer, the way that's kind of phrased here is that the idea, I mean, we don't really have like the story arc of the Vulcans is that they used to be very primitive, but we don't get that arc with the Dwemer. So I think the implication here is that something about Dwemer culture gets rid of the idea of love. But it seems to be, according to Vivec's definition, love as like what I frequently will shorthand as lowercase L love, not uppercase L love. Uppercase L love being the abortion of kindness from love, or the idea of Crowley's idea of love of. The easiest way that I have to explain it is way the fuck more complicated than this, but the fastest way to explain it is if you think about the way a father loves his son or daughter, or a mother, a parent, the way a parent loves their child, is very much sort of like, look, I love you and I'm very patient with you, but if you step out of line, I will smack the shit out of you. and that's kind of like
Southern American way of looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the idea being that like I'm here to protect you and keep you safe and so on, but I'm also here to help you learn discipline and self-control and become a better person. And that is what Crowley's love originally started as, I think, or when Crowley first started developing this sort of philosophy of his. I think he originally kind of, like, earlier texts seem to kind of Crowley seems to kind of define love as when he talks about God's love, the way God loves people. He seems to like to have this idea of like God being affectionate, but also, you know, there's a bigger picture. And, you know, if you insist on fucking around, of sinning and acting against God, then bad shit is going to happen to you, and it's going to continue to happen to you until, ideally speaking, you learn your fucking lesson. And
I remember Michael Ziegler talking about this, about when the Jews finally get to Sinai and they see like Jerusalem, they actually get outside like, oh yeah, like, well, but like, you know, Jesus.
Yeah, it's all right, you know. I mean, the price of fish is a little expensive, and I don't know. Maybe we should not go there. And then God was like, all right, well, motherfucker, you can't go there at all then.
Yeah, God was like, I literally pulled miracles out of my, you know, cosmic butthole to save y'all here. And here you are being ungrateful. I am not about that life. So fine, wander the desert for 40 years then if you don't want to go.
None of you get to see it. Damn, but fine, you know, there you go. You didn't want it. Well, now you can't have it. Aren't you happy? Yep. And that was it. Yeah. And
more for me, said God as he ate all the Neapolitan ice cream.
Yeah. Yes. And
my version of the Bible is incredibly terrible and blasphemous. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they have
James is like, yeah, you're going to hell.
Yeah. Enjoy it. And so Vivec, this is one of, I mean, I don't know if it was intended as a joke, but I love this part here where Vivec describes love to the Dwemer, and it reads like the instruction manual for a VCR.
It reads like some doctorate candidate trying to describe love.
Well, let's read it for the people listening to it.
I would also point out before we read it, it is talking about lowercase love here.
Yes.
There is a lowercase, so it is
affectionate love.
I mean the first love in the quote is capital, but that's because it's the first word.
Exactly.
That's because that's how grammar works. But yes, let's read the thing.
Love is not only used as a constituent in moods and affairs, but also as the raw material from which relationships produce hour-long exasperations, regrettably fashioned restrictions, riddles laced with affections known only to the loving couple, and looks that linger too long. Okay, so a big part of this, I suspect, is Kirkbride enjoying synesthesia, because the word choice there is phenomenal.
He's also playing with the fact that, I mean, if you're intimate with someone,
he's Vivec's reading the user manual.
And it's you know, like my wife and I get into arguments sometimes. Like it's just something that happens.
Yeah.
Like it's never anything serious, but
it's
you know,
hour-later exasperations and regrettably fashioned restrictions of, like, you know, oh, I don't like it when you wear red, you know, like things like that, you know, and
riddles laced with affection known only to the loving couple. People will develop their own language when they live together.
Exactly.
For that long.
And you can say, sweetie, where's the thing? And it's like the thing or the thing. And
like, the thing. Oh no,
and they know what they mean, and everyone else look at them like, the fuck was that?
Yeah.
See, my wife is so used to my humor, she knows my punchlines before I do.
Right.
It's pretty impressive.
Or
rest in peace to
get
my future
newer
partner.
jokes.
I use puns way too often for my own good.
So love is also an often used ingredient in some transparent verbal and nonverbal transactions, where eventually it can sometimes be converted into a variety of true devotions, some of which yield tough, insoluble, and infusible unions. In its basic form, love supplies approximately 13 draughts of all energy that is derived from relationships. Its role and value in society are largely controversial. So at this point, I assume the Dwemer have fallen asleep.
Yeah. It's also the idea of it kind of shifts gears from talking about the interpersonal aspects to the kind of stuff it produces within society at large.
Right.
The kind of the tough, insoluble, infusible unions, and energy and so on and so forth. They're all and true devotions and stuff as well. They're all kind of societal in a way that other things aren't, because there's kind of ways that things like the way I always put it is like, well, I'm contractually obliged to say that if it's something about if it's something about how my wife is or whatever.
Well, and also insoluble and infeasible unions, of course, by which we mean marriage.
Yeah, marriage and children too.
Not marriage. Marriage.
Marriage is what brings us together today.
Well, think of it this way. I mean, when you have a kid, like you are bound to that other person for a good long time. Well, let's take my wife's ex-husband for example. They have a kid, my stepson, and we have to deal with biodad. And we don't really have a choice in the matter.
Nope.
He's here whether we like it or not, and that's so that's an infeasible union.
Until the child reaches the age of majority, and they get to basically begin making decisions for themselves.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, and it's also contingent. The idea that eventually it can sometimes be converted. It's something that doesn't always result in anything else. There's vast amounts of arguments you can make there about love versus infatuation. Things like that. Yeah.
And its role and value in society are largely controversial. I mean, what a great way to end it.
Yeah.
This just puts a real button on it. The Dwemer were vexed at those words. I wonder why. And tried to hide their power behind their power symbols. They sent their Atronachs to remove the egg image from their cave and place it in the simulacrum they had made of Vivec's mother. Convenient.
So they're like, wait, whoa, no, Sean. Okay, get that thing out of here.
Yeah.
Put that thing in the robot. We don't want it.
Not just the robot, the mom bot.
Yeah, the Sentionaut.
Yeah.
So a Dwemer said, "We Dwemer are only aspirants to this that the Velothi have. They shall be our doom, and this and the 8 known worlds." And here we go.
Hey.
More tetragrammaton.
Well, no, we've got eight worlds, right? Okay, so there are 8 planets according to the Dwemer orrery
cosmology
in Oblivion. And according to the Dwemer cosmology. And yet, we know what those planets are in Oblivion because they're labeled. But these are different. This list of 8 known worlds are Nirn, Lorkhan, Arkay, Stendar, Kinnereth, Akhat is...
Arkay.
No, I said Arkay already. Arkhet is Arkay.
Okay. Akatosh?
Akatosh, that's it. Mara and Junal. Okay? And there's a lot of problems with this.
Yes.
First off, Akatosh is not a planet. Neither is Lorkhan. Lorkhan is 2.
Akatosh is a planet. He's the eye of the fighter constellation.
That's true. But if you're going to list Lorkhan, you're going to list Lorkhan as 2 bodies, which could theoretically just be one, just split. That's fine.
Well, I mean that depends on the culture we're talking about, though, because the Lorkhan as 2, that's only the lunar Lorkhan that says that.
Yes.
Whereas the Khajiit see Lorkaj as a third.
The third.
Yeah.
But what about the idea of Lorkhan as Sept, the jealous void that eats the stars?
Yeah, and then
what about Lorkhan as Lig?
Yeah, all right. So, but to make you're just ticking off people's bingo cards right now, aren't you?
Look, we're communists now, right? We're trying to make sure everybody gets bingo.
Yeah. So one of the things that somebody already got a bingo like 10 minutes into this fucking thing, but everybody else is late. So the point here is that these 8 known worlds do not match the known worlds of the Dwemer orrery. Now, it's possible you could say that the Dwemer orrery might have been made specifically for Cyrodiil, but in my understanding is, and I could have this wrong, but I believe it was captured by it was taken from the Dwemer. It was not made by the Dwemer as a gift. I could be wrong. Somebody who's played Oblivion more recently might have that information.
Sorry, I was reading. What was taken from the Dwemer?
The Dwemer orrery in Oblivion, in the Oblivion DLC.
Yeah. Right.
I don't think it was a gift from the Dwemer. I think it was a I think it was taken from them.
It was like an excavation and pulled out.
How does this relate to Harry Potter? So the trick here is that at one point or another, like many years ago, I actually asked Kirkbride straight up, like, why are these known worlds different? What's going on there? Did you have something planned? And he said he actually had a reason for why they were listing off the planets, and that they're different for the Dwemer here than they are anywhere else or for any other culture. And for the life of me, can't remember what the fuck it was.
I do think it's significant that Dibella and I was about to say and Mara is missing, but Mara's there. So on some level, the Dwemer do understand love if they process Mara.
Well, there's no Dibella.
There is no Dibella, but
we have RK. Yep, there's RK.
That's kind of interesting actually, because they, just to get Greek on it for a second, the lack of Dibella. If they have Mara but they don't have Dibella, Greek famously will have 4 words for love. We have philos, which is friendship and affection and all stuff like that. That's love between friends, love for parents, all that sort of stuff. You have storge, which is a love of things and places. When you say, "Oh, I absolutely love this place," that's storge. You have agape, which is selflessness, the kind of willingness to do absolutely everything for a person, the kind of the greater love have no man than this, than he lay down his life for his friends type of love.
Where are my Yuri on Ice people at?
And sorry,
nothing.
And there's the fourth one, and the fourth type of love is eros, which is where erotic and all that comes from. So that's your romantic, sexual, whatever type of love. So the lack of Dibella to me says that they're missing that they're missing Dibella, they're missing eros, they're not missing the other types of love. But the other link that I was going to make, I can't remember what on earth text it's in, but Plato gives eros a bigger role in things than just romantic stuff. It's the eros becomes desire overall. It's the line is something like the soul longs to fly back to the world of ideas on the wings of eros. Meaning that but that kind of thing says things like desire and so on, which fits quite well with Dibella's overall sphere for things like artistry, because you can talk about an artist's drive and the muse and all that, and it gets very fuzzy as to what's where love and desire and drive for things kind of go. And I'm sure that we can get to Thelema points here at some point from everything I'm keying up. But do the Dwemer just not understand the idea of a desire that drives, so to speak? Is that something they're missing?
So like the main sort of thing to maybe keep in mind that we might be missing here is that at first Mara was worshipped as a fertility god. Love and stuff came after that because like Mother Mara and like crop yields and like growing, so that kind of became a sort of natural association in the wake of that. Dibella's has always been, I think, like love, beauty, art, and music.
Yeah.
Which, quite frankly, if you're a scientific or engineer-minded Dwemer, most of those are of no use to you except for music in terms of tonal magic. So purely from like a utilitarian standpoint, like, so what? And so even for them, Mara's, it's less about love and more like, yeah, well, of course we want to have healthy Dwemer babies. I need a replacement engineer. So, that's why. So like, yeah, sure, I'm a prey to the fertility goddess or whatever, because like that makes sense. Do I care about her? Do I call her mama? No. Like, that's the Dwemer.
So there's one more missing. And that's Zenithar.
Yes.
We have Stendarr and we have Julianos, but we do not have Zenithar, which is interesting that the Dwemer would not take the hard work and commerce seriously. Because
isn't he also associated with magic though? Didn't we cover that in the
is Zenithar? I don't think Zenithar.
He's associated with the cosmic order in some ways, but in the kind of Adam Smith invisible hand of the market kind of way.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was about to say, are we talking about the law of equivalent exchange or no?
Toka koka desu.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. Oh, no. What did you say? Oh, Edward?
Nerds.
Weebs.
One of the few animes I've actually watched.
Yes. I can't believe I'm the only guy around here who's watched Yuri on Ice. Is that actually true?
Probably.
Oh, all right.
My Crunchyroll subscription started today. Yes.
Oh, okay.
My anime knowledge starts and ends with Death Note and Full Metal Alchemist. That's about
and not JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
No, never seen it.
Fucking hell.
I recently started getting into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I've been finding it hard to get past the like fourth JoJo Josuke or whatever. But it's still enjoyable. The music is.
Lovely.
Okay, anyway.
What?
It's the Pillar Men Awaken theme.
Yeah.
It's one of the most iconic parts.
It's the Aztec gods of fitness.
Was it? Not Phantom Blood. Battle Tendency. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some memes I can't escape. Like, oh, you are approaching me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's some things I just can't. Especially when I work in middle schools and high schools all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Part 2 Joseph is the best JoJo, but part 4 is the best part.
Anyway.
All right. Yeah.
Anyway, Zenithar.
Yeah.
Zenithar is the 8th JoJo. There we go.
Okay. Part 7. Wait until you guys get to Steel Ball Run. It's fucking amazing.
My thoughts as to why Zenithar is potentially not there is again linked to. I'm going to link this to through Crowley that Zenithar is not only the god of commerce, but it's kind of hard work and payment in kind. Is you do something, you get a result.
Yeah, well, I guess the Dwemer would be more think smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which kind of undermines Zenithar's whole deal.
And also, if we are to go with the idea of the calling being something that makes the Dwemer a lot more of a communal society, I mean, even if it is technological, which ESO strongly implies, then it is very much more of a communist type society where where you get supported by the society. You don't get your worth from the sweat of your brow, which is a Zenithar concept.
Yeah. So the advent of their technology is what brings them away from Zenithar, because it's the machines doing the work. It's not them.
Yes, the Dwemer did achieve the singularity.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's really good.
The new medium is the singularity. I like this idea.
I do too. I think that's good.
Yeah.
The singularity engine.
So, but
is that why it can delete things?
Well,
maybe.
Gonna have to misinterpret that further, I think.
Yeah. So, the secret to Doom is within the sermon. So, that is largely
the how, you avert Doom.
It's obviously that prayer.
So when Crowley was discussing Love Under Will, and I think I mentioned this in the previous cast, one of the many different ways that love appears, according to Crowley, is, as I mentioned in the cast, is flow states, and I think if you Google like peak performance, you'll get a bunch of bullshit memes, but you might get like an actual like article about it, and it's what I think skiers, I think, called the little voice or something, the inner voice, and the idea being is that love for Crowley was about your entire self communicating with itself. So your inner divinity talking to directly to your consciousness as directly as it can talk. And what that meant was that love was in principle the holy guardian angel. And one of the things is that it means that love is an enantiomorph. It's a combination of it's a meeting of the divine and the mortal, of the infinite and the limited. And so that the Dwemer do not understand love. It is possible to suggest that the Dwemer don't understand capital L love, the Crowley style of love, because the Dwemer don't really believe in gods. Not technically. They don't believe in a divinity or a purity or a truth or etc.
Well, it makes me wonder. I mean, they may have beneficial relationships with their friends or whatever, but I don't. I'd be interested to see their family dynamics. I mean, do they have actual families, or is it more would it be something more alien if they don't understand, like procreation is just a means to an end for the perpetuation of our culture.
And all the kids are raised in nurseries and shit. Who knows?
Like it's we don't care who the mother and who the father is. It's they're paired genetically using data and things like that.
Spreadsheets.
Because the Dwemer are fucking nerds.
They are. Yeah.
So they're not interested in the family making part. They're interested in the people making part. If that makes
maybe
sense.
Captain Eugenics. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it would be
utilitarian eugenics.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
every day the Dwemer gets just a little more cold and horrifying.
Really, the spreadsheet elves. Yeah,
I love it.
What's that in fucking Elnifex?
We can call them the Excelmer.
I was about to say that, the Excelmer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Breeding the Kwisatz Haderach? Yeah, possibly.
Well, they were breeding the Kwisatz Haderach by killing themselves and squishing their souls back together.
Yeah, really. Dwemer soul wine. So it's sort of like so I think that thinking about love in capital L terms also applies to the Dwemer. The idea that they don't understand that, or they don't believe it's possible for there to be a unity of God and mortality. I kind of get that, and I don't think it's a bad fit for this, but I do think that it's pretty clear that Vivec is talking about lowercase L love and not the big L.
Absolutely, yeah, no, because this is he's talking he's talking about love in a utilitarian sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's here's how people use it, and that's describing how it's used. Love is used not only as a constituent in moods and affairs, but also as the raw material from which relationships produce hour-long exasperations. Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what love means. Here's the definition. But then there's obviously a difference between that and Crowleyan Vecian love.
Yeah, and then Vivec looks up from her notes, and then all the Dwemer are hiding behind the countertop and stuff, peeking out what the fuck is this dude talking about? So yeah, I mean that's Sermon 3, 2 and 3, really.
The Secret of Doom.
The Secret of Doom, which is it's they shall be our doom. So the secret of doom is the secret of the Velothi, which is love.
Yeah.
See, I interpreted that to be that prayer that Vivec speaks to his mother.
Right.
That doom is inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
You may as well perform your function and then let it consume thee.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, doom as final fate would makes that absolutely work. Yeah.
So
cool.
That's us. Yeah, that's 2 and 3. Cool. We're gonna pick this up again in 2 weeks for Sermon 4 and probably 5, because 4 is kind of a quickie too.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I like me quickie.
Yeah. Hey. Yes. So email. Yes. Everybody should. If you have any questions or if you feel we haven't covered anything, please email us at selectiveslorecast@gmail.com. And
or you know, your accolades are also welcome.
Yes, of course. We will take compliments.
Yeah.
And you know, push
like
buttons and ring bells and sub to my OnlyFans. Yeah. And well,
you could also roast me in the email.
Too. Oh, okay, that'd be great. I'll read. You guys, if you guys want to make fun of White Guar, I'll read. Yeah. I'll read that shit.
Yeah.
There's something
White
for some.
Guar looks like a melting wax sculpture. You know,
I want to be a candle. Which is a very obscure reference.
We only take T3 subs on Twitch. Don't tell them that. We take anything. I prefer Prime subs because then it takes money out of Jeff Bezos' pocket. So,
there you go.
Anyway, so thanks very much, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.